What's happening? Or should I ask what's not happening? Because, man, oh, man, we got some big news on this breaking news edition of the Nick Cattle Show. Thanks for joining me. As always, it is very much appreciated. I said earlier today that if something big, if something significant happened, I would be back to talk about it. And obviously, Michael Onwenu re-signing to stay with the New England Patriots is big enough news to have this breaking news podcast. So here we are. Michael Onwenu ends up re-signing with the Patriots. This was broken, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes ago by Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. 3 years, $57 million, $38 million guaranteed. A $22 million or so, $22 million signing bonus. So Big Mike is getting paid very, very well. If he signed the franchise tag, if it was ever placed on him, it would have been about $21 million. So the signing bonus gives him more than what he would have made off the franchise tag. That means something. Let's remember that. Stick a pin in it. $19 million annually. Now, I found Ian Rappaport's wording of his post about Onwenu re-signing very, very important. Rappaport framed this as Onwenu a versatile offensive lineman. A versatile offensive lineman. That reads to me that the Patriots are thinking that Onwenu is going to be an offensive tackle. That's the idea. The idea is that he is your starting right tackle. If that is the plan, if Onwenu is fine with playing tackle, they believe he can play tackle, then this deal is fantastic. It's fantastic for a number of reasons. But let's go back to what we talked about this morning. Mike Giardi at NBC Sports Boston, he's been saying that Michael Onwenu wants to play guard. He wants to play guard. That's his desire. And when I heard that, I said, I'm not going to pay $20 million for a guy who only wants to play guard. I'm not going to do that. I want to know if Onwenu is willing to play tackle. Is he willing to play that position? Because that's the need. The need is your two starting tackles. So Mike Giardi has said that Onwenu wants to play guard. However, Mark Daniels posted this yesterday on Twitter. I asked Michael Onwenu in December what position he wanted to play. Quote, I think where I'm going, I want to play tackle. I can play both positions. Going into this offseason, here's what Onwenu said. Going into this offseason, I will train more for tackle. I'll train specifically more at tackle. That's what I'm going for. Mark Daniels wrote this in Mass Live tonight. Tackle was a major need for the Patriots, and keeping Onwenu in the fold is a significant step towards solidifying the position. So whether Mark Daniels is writing that on his own, and he's just decided to roll with that, I don't know. But I can tell you that Ian Rappaport framed this as versatile offensive lineman. Mark Daniels writes that he's going to play tackle. Also, Mike Reese, when he posts about this signing, he puts OT/G. So again, offensive tackle / guard. It's a fantastic, fantastic bit of business by Elliott Wolf and the Patriots. Onwenu wants to play tackle. He's fine playing tackle. Mark Daniels says that Onwenu told him he's going to train specifically more at the tackle spot. If he's willing to play tackle, then this is a fantastic deal on so many different levels. Josh Gemini jumps in with the first super chat of the night. Remember, you can jump to the front of the line with your question or your comment by sending a super chat. $2 super chat from Josh. A+ deal considering current offensive line market landscape. Yeah, I mean, look, the guards are getting paid an outrageous amount of money. Outrageous. And even with that being said, I would not have been jumping up and down in joy if I thought that Onwenu was closed-minded to playing tackle. And I've said that. If he's going to play offensive guard, you've got Sidy Sow who can play right guard. You put Cole Strange at left guard after investing a first-round pick in him. So if he's not open-minded, if he's not willing to play tackle, I'm not paying him $20 million a year. Well, here it is. Sounds like he's willing to play tackle. And if he's willing to play tackle, I am willing to pay him $19 million a year. That's how this works. I'm not paying $20 million a year for a guard. I'm paying $19 million a year for an offensive tackle / guard, which gives me incredible versatility up front. So that's why, to me, this deal is a fantastic deal, because Onwenu is willing to do what he's got to do to make this team better, to make this offensive line better. So let's start here, because I've got a lot to talk about, and I'm sure a lot of you want to react. Again, if you want to jump in front of the line with your comment or question, you can send a super chat, because there's going to be a lot of chatting during this podcast. First thing, Elliott Wolf and the coaching staff, Alex Van Pelt, right? Scott Peters, offensive line coach. They have to feel comfortable with the idea of Onwenu playing tackle. They have to believe that Onwenu is a fit. And you're not going to pay somebody $19 million a year. You're not going to give them $38 million guaranteed, $22 million in a signing bonus. You're not going to do that unless you believe in your heart of hearts that this guy can play tackle for you. And not only he can play tackle at least a good level, if not very good level. We have to give Elliott Wolf the benefit of the doubt. And so that's what we're going to do. Elliott Wolf is a film guy. He believes that Mike Onwenu can play tackle. Mike Onwenu wants to play tackle, or he's at least willing to play tackle. Scott Peters, who you're going to trust. You are going to trust Peters in coaching this offensive line. This is a conversation that should not be taken lightly. They're not throwing this up against the wall. So they believe that Mike Onwenu can play tackle. That's enough for me. Now, if they end up being wrong, we'll see how it all shakes out. But this contract tells me, the way it's been framed, what Onwenu has said to people in the past, Mark Daniels most recently, the staff and Wolf must feel like he fits the scheme and he can play tackle for you. Great. Something else I want to get to, but first, let's go to Alan, who jumps in with a super chat. Thank you, Alan. As always, super chat, you jump to the front of the line. And of course, you also contribute to the show financially, which I always appreciate. Traded Mac, released Parker, re-signed Onwenu. The new Patriots offense is proof that brain transplants are possible. I know that some people are going to try to, call me a honk. Some people say, oh, you just love Elliott Wolf. You're just an apologist for Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo. Honestly, sitting here right now, and there's a lot of offseason left, sitting here right now, Alan pumped and jacked, telling you what move that Elliott Wolf has made so far to this point. What move has he made that hasn't made sense? You tell me. You tell me. Even Antonio Gibson, which we're not going to get into too much depth because I'm sure I'll hit on him a little bit more tomorrow. This is mostly about Onwenu. Everybody wants a third down back. Everybody's been screaming for a third down back. Where's our Kevin Falk? Where's our Shane Vereen? Where's our Danny Woodhead? Where is our James White? Antonio Gibson, there's your third down back. People want offensive line help, right? You got to bring back Michael Onwenu. Onwenu, signed, sealed, and delivered. You need tackle depth. Chucks gets signed late last week. There's your swing tackle depth days before free agency begins. You use the transition tag on Kyle Duggar, which I think is a smart move, because I don't think he's going to get paid more than $13.8 million average annual value with how many safeties are out there in the market. You tell me what he's done that didn't make sense. We found out today, Devontae Parker, as Alan put in his super chat, he gone. They were trying to get a pick, but they weren't stubborn. They tried to get a pick. They couldn't get a pick. They moved on. They said, enough is enough. We're moving on. Devontae, you're not right for us. We might not be right for you. We're moving forward without you. Decisiveness. Hunter Henry re-signing on that deal. 2 years, less than $16 million guaranteed. Have you seen the market at tight end right now? Noah Fant just signed a 2-year, $21 million deal with Seattle. Okay? I've got guys that I have never seen play the game of football, and I've watched a lot of football. I see guys getting $8 million a year. Guaranteed. At tight end. Hunter Henry, 2 years. Less than $16 million. So you tell me. Kendrick Bourne, contract. Thought it was fair. Talked about it this morning. All right, let's continue with this. The other thing I love about this idea of signing Onwenu, you are keeping your best players. I've been saying since the season was over, the slogan for this offseason for the Patriots should be Patriots: just get better. And the way that you just get better is you go out there and you keep your good players and you build off of that. You build off of that idea. You keep your good players, you keep your best players, you keep those guys happy, you build off of that, you draft and develop. It all ties in together. It all ties in together. So you're keeping your best players. You're keeping Hunter Henry, the number one tight end available on the market when you came to an agreement with him. You're keeping Michael Onwenu, who looks like he's going to play tackle, which solidifies your offensive line, and he has been your most consistent offensive lineman aside from David Andrews. When he's healthy, he's been productive. So it just makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Weinstab jumps in. Not much happening with the wide receiver market so far. Yeah, Gabe Davis goes to the Jaguars, and I thought that was interesting. I don't know if that means the Jaguars are unlikely to bring back Calvin Ridley. I know a couple of people have, tweeted, including Jeff Howe, that the Jaguars are still trying to keep Ridley in town. But I don't know how you pay Gabe Davis and, the guys that you've brought in there, Christian Kirk. I don't know how you pay Kirk along with Davis and then give Calvin Ridley, $18, $19 million a year, $20 million a year. So tough for me to believe that. But yeah, there's not much happening with the wide receiver market. We'll see. We'll see about Calvin Ridley. There's been a lot of things written about the Patriots' interest in Ridley. Not a done deal just yet. All right, let's go to Adam C. Super Chat. What's your take on Bakhtiari? Been injury prone like Tyron Smith. He's been worse than Tyron Smith. Bakhtiari, all-pro talent, left tackle. He is somebody who has been extremely productive throughout his career, but the last 3 seasons or so, he's been banged up. He got a bad knee. The knee's pretty much shredded. So he's got problems with that knee. But as Adam brings up, and I tweeted this, if you want to follow me, by the way, at Nick C Radio is the handle, at Nick C Radio. I tweeted earlier, Bakhtiari was drafted by the front office that had Alonzo Highsmith and Elliott Wolf in it. So they have the intel on Bakhtiari. They know exactly who he is, what makes him tick. You got to look at the medicals. I would not be against signing him if you feel like he can be healthy, but it's a huge question. I certainly wouldn't give him a lot of money. To me, he's more of a question than Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith played 14 games last year, second team All-Pro. So Bakhtiari has been hardly on the field. If you can get him for a super, super low price, I'd entertain it. I'd at least kick the tires. I would kick the tires on him. But I have a feeling Bakhtiari will end up in New York with the Jets because his guy is Aaron Rodgers. They used to go to Bucs games together. They used to suck down beers together. So they're very good friends. I would imagine Bakhtiari, if he's going to stay in the league, will end up going to the Jets to play alongside his guy, AR-12, as they say. AR-12. All right. We'll get to more of your thoughts in a little bit. Again, Super Chats, you jump to the front of the line. This is busy tonight. As expected, Michael Onwenu re-signing with the New England Patriots. If you're just joining us, 3 years, $57 million, $38 million guaranteed, $22 million or so with the signing bonus, $19 million average annual value. Elliott Wolf continues to do some work. Now, before I go any further, I'm almost 15 minutes in. Try not to do this too often, but don't forget to give us that thumbs up. If you're watching, you give us that thumbs up. It brings more eyeballs to the product, which builds this community. Our Mac Jones breaking news podcast from yesterday was the most viewed video we've had with over 4,000 views on YouTube. It's all because of you, and I appreciate every single one of you. And we get there by liking, commenting, and subscribing. That's how we do it. We beat the algorithm. So if you're watching, if you enjoy how I present things, the alternative to Boston sports media, a lot of how things are figured out and handled here. If you like an alternative, this is it, the Nick Cattle Show. Don't forget to give us that like, that thumbs up, Facebook, Twitter, and also YouTube. Give us that thumbs up. Throw in a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. trying to hit 2,500 subscribers by April 1st. I feel like we can get there with the momentum that we have. You help us do that. Rate and review on Spotify, Apple Pods. Those 5-star reviews mean the world to us as well. Let's see. Let's jump into Ryan Goldberg here. Thanks for all you do, Nick. Love the conviction of this new Patriots brain trust. Belichick regime always shopped in the discount rack. Yeah, you would think that, I don't want to say every single move that's been done would not have been done with Belichick here, but you certainly have seen more conviction and more decisiveness from Elliott Wolf than you have seen from the prior regime. Going after it, deciding what needs to get done. They've got a huge checklist. We've talked about it. This checklist is a mile long, and they just keep checking things off. They're not wasting any time. They're not wasting any motion. They're not wasting any thought. They're going after it. They're trying to improve the football team. So Elliott Wolf has shown the urgency that we were hoping he would show. Ramsey, Wolf, and Patriot Place doing all the right things. So far, so good, Ramsey. Appreciate the super chat. Ryan, I appreciate your super chat as well. Charlie said, enjoyed the Patreon today. Well, thank you. Yes, this is my third podcast of the day. We did our live podcast at 11 this morning. I recorded a podcast for the Patreon page. By the way, it's Patreon/Nick Cattles, exclusive content to you. $5 a month, $1.25 a week. We got an exclusive podcast, ad-free during the week, mailbag, hangout, Q&A twice a month. Again, it's $5 a month, $1.25 per week. That's it. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. If you can't handle it, I get it. But it's the price of a pint. For the price of a pint, you get a month of exclusive content. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. Thank you, Charlie, for being a Patreon member. Thank you for checking out the content earlier today. All right, let's continue. Again, I got a lot of thoughts here. Standing by your word. Standing by your word means something. And so far, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is always going to be the case. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo, everything they say publicly, they're going to prove it by their actions. It's early, but so far, so freaking good when it comes to standing by your word. And this is why you want the person who's leading the personnel, who's leading the front office. This is why you want that person to be transparent. This is why you want that person to do the interviews at the combine, to sit in front of the media, so he can tell you what he sees, what he visualizes, what he believes, and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. That's how you hold somebody accountable. And that's why fans deserve the answers. And so far, Onwenu and Mayo have followed their words with their actions. They've talked about wanting to keep the core together. They talked about keeping their best players on the team, specifically with Onwenu, right? And also with Kyle Duggar. They said, we want to keep these guys here. And their actions have shown that. Offered a very fair offer to Kyle Duggar. Didn't take it. They didn't let him walk. They didn't let him walk into free agency. They put the transition tag on him to tell him, we want you here. We value you. Michael Onwenu, we're not going to put the franchise tag on you, but we are going to pay you at the top of the market. We are going to pay you what you deserve. We're going to pay you for the talent that you have. And so the idea of standing by your word, following through what you say with actions, don't just talk about it, be about it. And when you're making the kind of moves that they're making right now, they are being about it. And that's important to me. And I hope it's important to you. You know what else is important? Paying your own. Paying your own talent. How many times did we see this haggling, right? How many times have we sat back and watched the haggling over the last few years, over the last couple of decades? And again, I appreciate Bill Belichick and what he did for this football team. I appreciate the 6 Super Bowl championships. I think he had a major hand in all of the winning, okay? I'm not one of those people, if you're just joining me for the first time, that says Belichick doesn't deserve anything, Belichick didn't do anything, blah, blah. I'm not one of those people. But nobody can deny Belichick was very tough when it came to negotiating. And he would let guys walk out the door, and he would say, go see what you can get from other teams. And sometimes he would play it very, very difficult. And he would pinch for every single penny, right? The Wes Welkers of the world, the Julian Edelmans of the world. We know all of them. Dante Hightower at one point, Devin McCourty. And there was just this, it was somewhat acrimonious, the way things were dealt with, right? Didn't always seem like they wanted to pay their own, or that they would pay their own at the top of the market. Well, now we know. Duggar, his transition tag. That's a really good offer. Hunter Henry, very reasonable, fair offer. Onwenu gets paid at the top of the market, $19 million per, $22 million signing bonus. You are paying your own. And here's the thing, when you pay your own, you set the precedent. Because now other guys, what do you think Christian Barmore is thinking right now? What is Barmore thinking? You know, the prior regime, Barmore might be left to wonder, do I have a future here? Are they going to pay me? Are they going to give me the money that I'm worth? Or are they going to play hardball? And is it going to make it very difficult for me to believe that I'm going to be a New England Patriot for the next 8 to 10 years? Christian Barmore is looking at this and he's saying to himself, these guys are going to pay. These guys are going to pay. If I do my job, if I work my tail off, if I produce on the field. Barmore played like an all-pro defensive tackle the last couple of months of the season last year. He was one of the only bright spots on this football team. He is a blue chip kind of talent. Now he can look at this. He can look at the Onwenus. He can look at the Duggar and the transition tag. He could look at Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne coming back, getting paid fairly. And Barmore can look at this and he can believe in the idea that he is a New England Patriot through and through. That he is going to be here. That he can be a Patriot for the next 5 years if he wants to. And that brings good vibes. That brings belief. That's what it does. Paying your own guys. Respecting your guys. We have more news. Breaking news. I will get back to Onwenu in a minute. Jeremy Fowler. Patriots plan to sign Jacoby Brissett. Keep it coming, baby. Bring it on. Let's go. Let's go. Henry's back. Bourne's back. Onwenu's back. Signing your good players. Signing a third down back today. Getting rid of Devontae Parker. Trading Mac Jones. And now you're going to sign Jacoby Brissett. It makes sense. It makes sense. And that's all I want. That's all I want in this world. That's all I want from the football team. Make it make sense. Jacoby Brissett will be a New England Patriot. Makes a ton of sense. He's the guy that we've been talking about for the last several weeks. He's the perfect fit for what you are trying to do with this program. This makes just a ton of freaking sense. Jacoby Brissett is somebody who can be the bridge quarterback. He's the veteran guy who can help guide a young rookie if you draft a guy at 3, like many of us think the Patriots might do or will do. This is the guy that you look at and you say he gets it. Russell Wilson, I wasn't a big believer in. Russell Wilson, the ego, his stature, what he's done in the league, wasn't big on that idea. Brissett knows his worth. He knows his worth in the game. He knows his role. And so he is the guy that you can trust when you go out and you draft a quarterback. Say you draft a quarterback at number 3. You draft Drake May. Oh, it just keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better. Ian Rappaport, 1 year, $8 million. I mean, just give me a minute. I mean, that's what it's about. I'm upset it's Monday. I'd be cracking craft beers right now. 1 year, $8 million. You didn't need to overpay him. You didn't need to give him 3 years, 4 years. Gardner Minshew just signed a deal with the Raiders. 2 years, $25 million, $15 million guaranteed. You just got Jacoby Brissett for half of the guaranteed money that the Raiders paid Gardner Minshew. Smart. Brissett is the quarterback that is the perfect fit for this specific situation. You draft a guy like May at 3. If you've got to sit May for a year, you've got to sit May for a half a year, whatever you've got to do, you now have somebody in Jacoby Brissett that is going to be a perfect fit. He's played here before. He knows the media. He is a level-headed guy. He, by all accounts, is a fantastic leader in the locker room. Somebody who truly gets it, willing to work with the younger quarterback. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. It just makes sense. My guy Ricky jumps in and says, all they've done is all the easy stuff. Here's the problem, Ricky. They haven't done the easy stuff for so long. That's why I'm happy. That's why other people are happy. They're doing things that make sense. Paying your best offensive lineman makes sense. Bringing in a third down back makes sense. Getting rid of Devontae Parker. We just saw the prior regime sign Devontae Parker to a contract extension less than 1 year ago. Parker could not even fetch a 7th-round pick in a trade. So you can tell me all they've done is the easy stuff. The issue is the easy stuff hasn't been done for 4 or 5 years, especially on the offensive side. Where was the Jacoby Brissett signing last year to sit him behind Mac Jones just in case? But instead, you rolled with Bailey Zappi, even though you weren't totally sold on Zappi. And we all know what happened. You had more than 20 transactions at the quarterback position. Yes, this is easy stuff to a point. This seems simple. But the last 4 or 5 years, simple has been not simple. Everything's been a project. Shooter McGavin jumps in, super chat. Glad we cut bait. Belichick would have given him $100 million. Cut Board. Sorry, thought about Chris Board. Another move, yes. So you're telling me that less special teams players will be on the roster this year? Thank the good Lord. I got a little tired of 6 or 7 guys who can only do coverage on kickoffs. Rob D jumps in. Before free agency starts, we only need a left tackle, tight end 2, wide receiver 1. I think that is remarkable with where we were a month ago. Very happy so far. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up as you watch. Thumbs up means the world to us. More thumbs means more eyeballs as we're building this community. This is by far the best group that we've had here during a live breaking news podcast. Tremendous traffic, and it's all because of you. You throw those thumbs up, you throw comments in, and if you like how we do this and what we do, make sure you subscribe. Trying to get to 2,500 subscriptions by April 1st. I appreciate every single one of you. Before I move forward, I do have to slide a sponsor in. Nick Cattle Show is brought to you by First Class Glazing. If you need your bathroom renovated and or that bathtub glazed, check out First Class Glazing. Expert craftsmen dedicated to delivering top-tier results using premium materials and precise techniques. That bathroom space that you've always wanted, you can actually have it. Visit First Class Glazing online at firstclassglazing.com or give Jose a call. My guy Jose at 617-849-0513, 617-849-0513. And if you mention this podcast, you'll get a free estimate and 10% off. All right, so Jacoby Brissett, 1 year, $8 million. It's a fantastic deal. Fantastic deal. By the way, the Seahawks just agreed to terms with Leonard Williams. So that's a big loss for the Jetsies. So Brissett back to the Patriots, 1 year, $8 million. All right, let me circle back to my thoughts on Onwenu now. He strengthens the offensive line. Willing to play tackle, he's going to strengthen the offensive line because now you have that versatility. You can play him at right tackle. You can play him at right guard. If you have some kind of issues at tackle on the left side, you can now swing Chucks over there and not have to necessarily worry about him playing right tackle because you've got Onwenu. So it just gives you much more strength up front. That offensive line now, it's not perfect. It's far from it. You still need a left tackle. I mean, let's not get it twisted. You still need a left tackle. There's some question about Cole Strange being healthy for the beginning of the season. But Michael Onwenu makes your offensive line a hell of a lot better than if he's not here. So, when you look at keeping him in the mix and having that quality of an offensive lineman to have your back, so to speak, your offensive line is much better right now than it would be 2 days from now if he bounces, because you don't know who's going to be tackled. You have no clue what's going on. So he strengthens the offensive line. Here's another thing that I like. You have flexibility in the draft. Let's say you sign Tyron Smith or Jonah Williams. Let's say you make that happen. You sign one of those two guys, and one of those two guys is going to be your left tackle. Now, you don't feel an overwhelming sense of desperation when you get to the draft. You're not sitting there and saying to yourself, man, we have to draft a tackle in the first 2 rounds because if we don't address that position, we are screwed. Now, here's a hypothetical. Let's say A.D. Mitchell. This is not going to happen. It's a hypothetical. Let's say A.D. Mitchell somehow, by the grace of the football gods, slides down to 34. Right? Let's say A.D. Mitchell slides down to you at 34. Well, now, if you bring Tyron Smith in or Jonah Williams and you've got Onwenu on the right side, now you don't feel like you have to draft a tackle at 34. You might feel that if Onwenu doesn't come back and then you swing and miss at some of these free agent tackles. You might feel that desperation. Now you're not feeling the desperation. If you can bring one of those tackles in, now you have Onwenu on the right side, Jonah Williams or Tyron Smith on the left side. Chucks is your swing tackle. Calvin Anderson is your even more depth tackle. And now you can walk into it and say, you can walk into the draft and you can say to yourself, we have coverage. We have insurance. We have a safety net. We have the ability to roll a few guys up front. And so now I might not have to draft a Jordan Morgan at 34. Now I can draft an A.D. Mitchell if he falls. Now I can draft, whatever name you want. There's so many receivers that can go in the first 2 rounds. Whatever receiver you like, just plop that name in there. So it gives you the flexibility during the draft. You've got a lot of options. You don't want to be handcuffed when you walk into a draft. You want to have pretty much every single position addressed. Get every single position addressed as well as you can before you walk into the draft. That's what makes sense. By the way, 1-year deal for Jacoby Brissett at $8 million. He can make up to $12 million with incentives. I remind you again, Gardner Minshew signed for $15 million guaranteed with the Vegas Raiders. It's a great deal. It's a great deal for Brissett. It's nailing the market. So you've got a lot of options going into the draft if you are able to handle the holes up front with at least, I would say, good talent. Jonah Williams, he's not great. If you brought him in, he's at least a good tackle. Michael Onwenu might not be great, but he's at least a good tackle. And that's why you signed him tonight, because you believe he can be a good tackle. David Andrews in the middle, you're fine there. Cole Strange actually started to improve before the injury. You hope he stays healthy. You hope he gets back. But the thought is that you go into that draft not feeling as desperate, because desperate teams make mistakes. And by the way, you did not need the franchise tag. That's something that's going to be overlooked, I believe, by some people. Why does that matter? I'll tell you why it matters. Because when you put a franchise tag on somebody, sometimes that player doesn't necessarily enjoy that idea or that experience. They're not fans. They're not fans of being franchise tagged. They feel like you're limiting them. And I think that's why the Patriots put the transition tag on Kyle Duggar, because it allows Duggar to talk to other teams. Even though Duggar's representation is reportedly, not happy with it, I think it was fair by the Patriots. I do. Gives you the opportunity to go out there and to talk to other teams, see what your value is, yada, yada. And the $13.8 million is fantastic value for Kyle Duggar, given what the safety market is showing us. But not franchising Onwenu, you're starting off on the right foot. When you're negotiating, if you put the franchise tag on Onwenu, that might rub him the wrong way, just like that. And now all of a sudden, you start the negotiation with the guy being a little bit angry. And the Patriots, they looked at Onwenu. They said, we love you, Mike. We love you. We love what you do. We want you here. We're not going to put the handcuffs on you with the franchise tag. We're going to work out a deal here between you and us. We're going to work out this deal. We're going to get something done. We're going to pay you at the top of the market or near the top of the market. I talked about respect on today's podcast. And by the way, if you're just jumping in, don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to send a comment if you want to. And don't forget to subscribe. Trying to hit 2,500 subscribers by April 1st. That is the goal. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Every single thing on that list I just gave you means the world to us. It's how we build this community. We got to sit here and fight algorithms in this weird world that we live in. But that's what we do. I'm a one-man band. I have no producers. My wife helps me with some of this fancy pants, thumbnail stuff. Got a friend who did my logo for me. So every little bit helps, and I appreciate every single one of you that support the program. Also, Patreon, started a Patreon today for exclusive content. I don't just talk Patriots. I can talk all four Boston sports. If you're into exclusive content, you can check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Nick Cattle, Cattles. It's got all the details there for the Patreon page that launched today. Jeff Stein says, Okorafor or Illuminor? Oof. That's a tongue twister. Who's better? I would say that Illuminor recently has probably played better than Chucks. But honestly, I haven't been sitting around breaking down the Chucks film. Just going off of things I've read about Okorafor and some of the things that people from Pittsburgh have written. Look, he's okay. He's good. But it's not a vast difference. It's not a significant difference between Illuminor and Okorafor. Very, very similar players. I would say Illuminor's got a little bit more when it comes to versatility. Okorafor has only played, I think it's 2 snaps in his entire NFL career at left tackle. So he's mainly been a right tackle. He did play on the left side in college. So Illuminor gives you a little bit more versatility up front. But as far as, the player, the level of player, somewhat similar. I don't think you look at it and go, oh, man, Illuminor is just way better. You also have to think about this. Illuminor signed, I think it was, who was it, with the Giants? A 2-year deal, like $14 million. So you get a 1-year deal with Okorafor at like $4.5 million versus a 2-year deal for $14 million for Illuminor. So you're not paying as much money nearly for Okorafor. So I think that plays a role as well. Just trying to keep up here. Apparently the Bruins are getting their ass kicked, so I made the right call to jump on and do this pod and not watch that game because they're down like 4-0. My freaking goodness. What a terrible Monday night at the Garden. Anyway, I digress. Back to the Patriots. You didn't need to use the franchise tag. Huge. Huge. It allowed you to keep your options open in free agency. It made Onwenu feel, I think, more comfortable and respected through the process. It allowed you to use the transition tag on Kyle Duggar because once you use that tag on Duggar, you can't franchise Onwenu. This was very well done by Elliott Wolf. They felt confident they could get an Onwenu deal done, right? They said, we can bring Onwenu here. We can bring him back. We feel confident in that. So let's put the transition tag on Duggar to make sure that we'll have a chance at least to match an offer. So it's very smart business. It's great usage of, the resources you have at your fingertips. And I think this sends the message to the rest of the league that the Patriots are willing to play ball. They're willing to pay you. They're willing to respect you. And they want to change things. as far as how business is done with players and how they communicate, how they connect with those players. Now, if Onwenu is against playing offensive tackle, I think 19 million is too much. I've said that. It would be an overpay. Not in love with the idea of paying $19, $20 million to a guard. You've got City So. I think City So could play right guard for you for a fraction of the price. And you've put so many resources into the offensive guard position through the draft that I just feel like paying Onwenu 19, 20 million to play guard, issue. However, as we've talked about, if you're just joining us, Mark Daniels has written that Michael Onwenu has told him that he's willing to play tackle and that he wanted to, work out specifically at tackle. So that's the good news. So if he's willing to play tackle, it makes sense. It makes sense. All right, let's look at some of your chats, some of your thoughts. I'm going to try to peruse through here as much as I can. Mike Larry jumps in and says, Belichick would have let Onwenu walk and sign Mr. Glass Jimmy G. We have no idea what Bill would have done. But judging by how Bill has handled the offensive guard position in past years, the Joe Thuney situation, the Shaq Mason situation, I don't know if Bill would have been willing to go this far. But again, Bill might not have seen Onwenu as a tackle. Elliot Wolf and others, they must believe that Onwenu has the capability of playing tackle in this scheme, in this system. And if that's the case, good with it. Makes sense. Drew F. says, love these moves. Bill wouldn't have done any of these. I don't know. He might have kept Hunter Henry. He might have done that. I don't know if Kendrick Bourne would have re-signed here if Bill was still here. That's a question mark with how things went in 2022. So maybe Bourne's not back. But all of this makes sense, right? All of it makes sense. Like, I don't know if Hunter Henry would want to sign up again to, deal with how things were run here in the prior few years. I don't know that. Hunter Henry would have to be shot with truth serum to let us know if that was the case. Just Morg, we are on track. They've just been keeping our seat warm. We own the East. It's time to make that. Remember that. So Just Morg's ready. Maybe I shouldn't have stood up and did a little twirl earlier in the podcast. Maybe that was going a little overboard. I'm not about to sit here and start claiming the AFC East, okay? There's still a lot of room to grow, okay? But you walked in, you needed a quarterback, you got a quarterback. You needed a tackle, you got a tackle in Onwenu. You needed a tight end, you got the best tight end available in Hunter Henry. You needed reliable wide receiver help, production, people that will play hard and fit in the system. You got Kendrick Bourne, who I think is a perfect wide receiver 3. You needed a third down back. You got it. So you're looking at the holes that have to be filled, and they're being filled. They're being filled. The biggest question, obviously, right now, I think that all of us are wondering, left tackle, right? You got left tackle / wide receiver 1. How does that come together? Is it Calvin Ridley? Is it somebody else? Jake 1057 says a Ridley signing right now would make you think the front office is polling the fans. Or they're just looking at their needs saying, this seems pretty obvious. This seems pretty obvious. We need a quarterback. Let's go get the guy that's played for Alex Van Pelt before, who's played in New England before, who is very professional and mature and can handle the situation as the bridge quarterback or as the backup quarterback, whatever role we need him to play. He's willing to take a 1-year, $8 million deal. Let's do it. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. Jeff Stein jumps in and says, how do I contact you sponsoring the show? You can DM me, Jeff, if you'd like. You can DM me at Nick C Radio. You can, I guess, comment on the YouTube page, but I think a direct message would be best on Twitter. If not, then reach out to me via the comments at the YouTube channel, and we'll make something work. Appreciate that. You didn't have to send a super chat. I guess if you wanted me to see it, you did. Hunter Green, super chat. Again, if you want to jump to the front of the line with your question or your comment, you can do so. Pat's planning to sign Jacoby. How do you feel about that? I feel really good about it. Joe Flacco's older. He got off of his couch last year in Cleveland. I don't think you can bank on him for a full year if you need him for a full year. Russell Wilson, I was out on Russell Wilson. I don't think Russell is in the mind space, to put it diplomatically, to be the quarterback you need him to be. So I didn't think that made sense. Kirk Cousins, no way. Shout out to Kirk Cousins, the best businessman in sports history. That dude's a beast at the negotiating table. But Kirk Cousins was too much money. Baker didn't want to come here, so that didn't make much sense. I would have been okay with Baker if you didn't want any of the quarterbacks in the draft. But Mayfield reportedly was not in love with the idea of, coming to New England. So he was out. So when you start looking at the options, I know there's people out there going, oh, this guy or that guy, Jacoby Brissett, blah, blah. Like Justin Fields is going to cost you a pick. You've got to make a decision on his fifth-year option by May. That's a very uncomfortable situation. So you'd have to give something up for Fields, and then you're pretty much committed to the guy. So when you look at the field, Gardner Minshew got $15 million guaranteed from the Raiders. There's not much difference to me between Minshew and Brissett. I would probably lean Brissett over Minshew. So, Minshew wasn't the guy. I mean, he would have been fine if Brissett had to go somewhere else. I mean, obviously, you kind of list the options. Tannehill's out there, but Tannehill seems to be washed. Tennessee quit on him last year. Dan Hansen, super chat. 34 and a fifth to Cincy for Higgins in their fifth. I don't think that's enough. I don't think Cincy would take that deal. Maybe I'm wrong. I will say, however, that the idea of Higgins it's a sexy one, right? I am not in love with the idea of trading a pick or picks and paying Higgins the money that it would cost. I'm not a big fan of dumping all of that into a wide receiver. As much as I would love Higgins to be here, and as much as I believe he's a bona fide stud number one, let's look at the Tyreek Hill deal. Tyreek Hill traded from Kansas City to Miami a couple of years ago. That cost the Dolphins 5 draft picks. Are you willing to give up 2 draft picks, 3 draft picks? You could argue, you could debate that. You could draft somebody at 34 who might not be far off from Higgins on his own if you hit on the pick. And let's remember, Elliott Wolf was part of that Green Bay front office. They made a living out of drafting guys in the second round and third round and mid rounds. That's their philosophy, and they hit on a lot of them. So I'm not a big fan of trade picks, and pay T. Higgins all of this money. I would rather have Calvin Ridley and keep all my picks, even though Higgins is better than Ridley. It's the cost of Higgins, and how much does that offset it, right? Is Higgins worth Calvin Ridley and say 2 picks? I don't think so. Would you trade Calvin Ridley and number 34 in the draft for T. Higgins? No, I wouldn't. Maybe you would, but I wouldn't. Eric loves my lives. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. For those who missed me stand up and walk around the room after Jacoby Brissett, you missed one. Terrence F. Elliott Wolf on fire. Yeah, I mean, Elliott's off to a very good start. Elliott is off to a very, very good start. Tony Starks was wondering who's ordering the pizza and wings. Good question. I'm ready for a cold beer if this continues. And I'm not sitting here telling you that, this team's going to win 10 games, 11 games. I am just here to say that what has happened so far this offseason has made a lot of sense. The moves that have been made have been, some would say common sense. We had a comment earlier that said it was, the easy stuff, the simple stuff. But the simple stuff hasn't been done here for years, especially when we talk about offense. When we talk about offense, there's been a lot of simple things that have been overlooked. And that's how you get to where we got to. That's how you get to a team that has no starting tackles unless you move Onwenu to tackle, which they're going to do. And that's how you have, no legitimate number one wide receiver, really no legitimate number two wide receiver either. That's how you had the mess at quarterback. I mean, we know the situation. So I like the idea of identifying needs on a football team and addressing those needs efficiently, decisively. And that's what we're seeing. J and AVL, hope they grab a quarterback at 3. Well, here's what I'll say. Jacoby Brissett signing a 1-year deal certainly makes you feel like they're going to draft a quarterback at 3. If they were not sold on the quarterback at 3, and I could be totally wrong, maybe they want Penix in the second round at 34. They have to be comfortable with the idea of drafting a quarterback in April because you just gave Brissett a 1-year deal. If you were thinking long-term, if you were thinking we're not in love with the guys in the draft, then I think you would offer Brissett at least a 2-year deal so you can cover your tuchus. So the fact that he gets a 1-year deal does lead you to believe that the probability is the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback in late April. That's what this deal with Jacoby Brissett could be telling us. Right? Could be telling us that they are ready to pull the trigger on one of those quarterbacks at 3. And so you get Brissett for the year. If you need to sit that quarterback for a few games, whatever, but you've got Brissett for a year. And if he starts for you, then he can build his own value and go back into the free agent market. If you can move to the quarterback that you drafted and that guy's going to start, well, now you have the solid backup quarterback, the veteran on a 1-year deal. You can always come back and sign him more. Ryan Major, $19 million per for an offensive guard is a lot. I agree with you. But from what I'm reading and how things are playing out, it seems like he's going to play tackle. More Patriots news. My goodness. If you were bored today, let me tell you this, okay? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Subscriptions are huge, and liking this program is huge. Also, Patreon page, patreon.com/Nick Cattles, exclusive content if you like what we do here. If you were bored, I'm going to tell you my day. I literally sat on my couch staring at my computer for like 6 hours straight. I ate dinner with my left hand. This is no joke. I was eating dinner with my left hand and keeping an eye on Twitter with my right hand. I need help, if you're wondering. I do need help. There's something wrong. But I was sitting around for hours, and I said to my wife, Kelly, I said, as soon as I walk away from this computer, if I shut this computer down, something big is going to happen. I walked away from the computer, went to the bathroom for a second, came back, and what do you know? Michael Onwenu. I said, I told you. So if you were bored with the early day, well, we've got more for you. The Patriots have reportedly agreed to a deal with Browns linebacker Sione Takitaki. Now, I'm thrilled because just off the fact that he has one of my favorite names in all of pro sports, Sione Takitaki. I'm like a 5-year-old when I hear Taki. So I'm happy that I get to say Taki. So linebacker, 6th year, BYU. He tore his ACL in December, but he is recovering fast. He had 65 tackles, 2 sacks, a pick. He's somebody that, I haven't seen a ton of him, but I've seen some of him. I would say he's athletic. He's an athletic linebacker. He backed up Matt. I'll try that again. I've been talking for almost an hour. He backed up Mac Wilson in Cleveland, but he is an athletic guy at that second level. And I like the idea of adding, some athleticism to the linebacker position. Sorry, I'm just checking Twitter, making sure I'm not missing anything. So Taki comes in. He would obviously help fill the role that you're losing as Mac Wilson left town. He went to the Arizona Cardinals, 3-year deal, $15 million earlier today. A wide receiver is off the board, if you're wondering. The Texans are re-signing Noah Brown. Noah Brown was somebody who had been linked with the Patriots, slightly linked, but he was a name that came up. But Patriots are busy, man. Taki in the fold, Brissett in the fold, Michael Onwenu staying. A lot of stuff's happening. A lot of stuff is happening. Barry Levesque jumps in with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Barry. It is much appreciated. All the super chats. Can't say enough about you guys. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Specta Dez brings up something. Mike isn't athletic enough to be a puller, in my opinion. That's what's interesting. That's what's interesting about this. Again, Elliott Wolf and the coaching staff, they're telling us that Michael Onwenu is a fit for this system. He's a fit for this system. We'll see if they're right or wrong. I don't know. They feel like he's going to help out at right tackle. And, you know, what's the other option? You don't sign Onwenu, and then what? So they feel like he can play tackle. I would imagine he's going to play tackle on the right side. Could end up being wrong, but we'll see. But I like the idea of what they're doing. Brissett, like it a lot. Onwenu, as long as he's going to play some tackle, I like it a lot. Bourne, Henry, no issues there. Antonio Gibson. Taki is, again, an athletic linebacker, guy that can give you a little sideline to sideline. And I've been screaming from the mountaintops about, going sideline to sideline on this defense on the second level. Marte Mapu might play a role as well, right? He could play safety. He could play linebacker. We'll see how they feel about Marte Mapu. All right. It's my third podcast of the day. I'm running out of gas. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. Trying to hit 2,500 subscriptions by April 1st. All the likes, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, Twitter. I appreciate all of those likes that you guys and gals give us. It means the world to me. We do this podcast, if you're wondering, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. live every day. I will also tell you, patreon.com/Nick Cattle, CATTLES, exclusive content on the Patreon page. You get an ad-free pod every week. You get a mailbag as well. You get a hangout/Q&A twice a month. Exclusive content, $5 a month, $1.25 a week. Help a brother out if you like the content. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles, CATTLES. I'm going to go drink about 7 gallons of water. If the Patriots sign somebody else, I might be back, but I'll probably save it for tomorrow. So, great start for Elliott Wolf. I appreciate every single one of you joining us. This was the busiest pod that we've ever had, just looking at the numbers, and I can't thank you enough. So, thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. with more of the Nick Cattle Show.